Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeremy Burton. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Boston. Thank you all for coming out on such short notice today. Obviously, we all woke up to news that created great anguish and despair for many in the greater community of Boston. You're going to hear from a number of speakers who will be brief, including Mayor Walsh, we thank for bringing us together this morning, along with Barry Schrage, the president of Combined Jewish Philanthropies, leaders from within the survivors and the Generation After community, as well as from the Anti-Defamation League, the community of leaders who helped build and dedicate this memorial, as well as our district attorney. Following the district attorney's remarks, the district attorney, I believe, will be available for a few questions, as will others here, with regard to plans for the rededication and reinstallation of the memorial as well. So we will begin this morning's press conference with Mayor Walsh. Thank you for being here.
I too want to thank everyone for being here today, and I just want to thank my colleagues in government. We're joined by City Councilor Josh Zakem is with us today, City Councilor Mark Siomo, City Councilor Tim McCarthy, City Councilor Nisa Sabi George, City Councilor Frank Baker is also here. We obviously have our District Attorney Dan Conley here. We have former City Councilor Mike Ross is here. I want to thank you, Councilor Ross, for being here as well today. And if I miss anybody, I'll get you in a minute. I too got the phone call this morning from Commissioner Evans. We talked about what happened here. He informed me that early this morning, late last night, however you want to look at it, there was some vandalism here at this sacred place. And at that time, he wasn't sure exactly the circumstances. I know that they'll be in court today, and the district attorney certainly will talk more about that, so I'm not going to talk about the circumstance around the case. But I had a conversation with Mike Ross. And I was interviewed before I talked to Mike, I was interviewed by WBZ, and we were talking about the process, and I said to the reporter, I said, what must happen is we'll have to order a new pane of glass, and we'll have to, obviously get it fixed and reinstall a pane of glass. I'm not sure how long that'll take, but I'm sure it's going to take some time. Talked to Mike Ross this morning, and Mike said to me that when this memorial was designed and built, there was extra panes of glass bought for the exact purpose of this today, of vandalism or something wearing down or breaking off. And in 22 plus years, this is the first time that we've had to replace, in my understanding, a pane of glass here at this sacred place. So whatever the circumstances behind why the person who decided to broke this, we don't know yet. We'll find out as the day goes on. It's the strength of our community. It's the strength of the Jewish people who say, never forget the Holocaust. Never forget what happened. And as a city, we stand with the Jewish community. We stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, to say we support you. Because what this represents behind us is democracy. What this represents behind us is freedom. What this represents behind us is what type of city and what type of country we should be every single day. And what this represents behind us, we should never forget. And certainly the act that happened last night brought us out. We have not forgotten. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your support of this beautiful city and this sacred grounds.
Barry Schrage is the president of the Combined Jewish Philanthropies of Greater Boston, which is also the manager of the New England Holocaust Memorial site.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mayor Walsh. I actually can't think of a better or more important statement than the statement that you made. We are so fortunate to have you in the position that you're in. We're really blessed, so thank you very much. As soon as we found out about this, I received a message from the governor. The governor was on his way to Newburyport and couldn't be here, but he wants everybody to know that we have all of his support and love and caring, and he understands how important all of this is. When we hear the sound of broken glass, we shudder. It's a terrible reminder of terrible times. Time such as the time of Kristallnacht in Germany, when synagogues were shattered and the world fell apart. And what was most important for us to remember is that we were completely alone at that time. No one was there. And now here we have the mayor and the governor, and we have the police department. God bless you all for all of what you do and for being here with us today. The police are on our side. They're not on the other side. And what the mayor said was absolutely right. I am so proud of this community. We all stood together after 9/11, and we stood together after the marathon bombing, all together as one people. This is an amazing city with great heart. We are so proud to be here together, to be able to resist evil, to stand for good, to remember what it was like to be alone and what it's like to be part of a powerful, united society, united for peace and goodness, and united against terror and against all those who would destroy the good things that we hold so dear. We are going to rebuild. We have the glass, and it's ready to go. We thought about this, and the mayor was right. This is 23 years without an incident, and it's a sign of what a great city this is. So proud to be on the Freedom Trail. So proud to be here. I picked up this piece of glass. Jewish people have been shattered many, many times in our history. Every time we rebuild and we place a rock at a place of memorial on a tombstone. And so I'm going to place this piece of glass on top of the area behind me to a reminder and as a clear statement, we will rebuild. We are not going anywhere. Resilience is what makes us, the Jewish people, us, the city of Boston, us, the American people, truly great. Thank you.
Our next two speakers will be Israel Arbeiter, a Holocaust survivor and one of the founders of the American Association of Holocaust Survivors and Generations After of New England, and a leader in the move to build this memorial, as well as so much of what we do in our community. He will be followed by Janet Stein-Kalm, who is the current president of the Association of Holocaust Survivors and Generation After.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And we're very, very proud and happy to see that such a nice turnout today, after early in the morning, but that we were notified of what took place here. It was 6 o'clock in the morning that my wife came into our bedroom, and she was shaking, she was crying. I couldn't get out of her what it is that happened. And I kept asking, what is it? And she kept crying and crying. Finally, I started to raise my voice because I got scared now, not knowing what happened. God forbid, I hope nothing happened to the family. But finally she said they destroyed the memorial. I was very, very nervous at that moment, but a little at ease because at least I knew that it didn't happen nothing in the family. The memorial can be rebuilt, but God forbid if something would happen to the family, it would have been more serious. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. She said, put on the television, you'll see. I put on the television, I could see that they're sweeping up the glass here, but I saw the memorial was still staying up, at least the poles. So let me find out what happened, and I started to call my friends, Rick Mann, the president, and Mike Ross, to find out or notify them. They were sleeping. I woke them up 6 o'clock in the morning, and I could see they were sleeping. Neither one of them knew what I'm saying, what happened. But finally, I got it to them, and they said they gonna call and find out what happened. And they did. They called, and they called, I think, the mayor, and they found out what happened, and called me back and told me that it was that whatever it is, that a young man came and threw a rock, and we will find out more about it later. So I was in contact with all the other people to find out, and I was told finally by Rick Mann that we'll be meeting here at 11 o'clock and have a little talk about it. As Jeremy mentioned, Steve Ross and I were the ones that organized and prepared and be the founders of that memorial. My name is over there starting from the beginning and where the flag is. We worked on this. It's hard. It was hard labor. This is part of our families. This is a reminder of what happened to our families. I myself was 5.5 years in Nazi concentration camp, including Auschwitz. I lost my family in Auschwitz and in Treblinka. And we meet here every year, the Holocaust survivors, to remember why this memorial is staying here. Some people don't know, of course. Many times I was invited to explain to groups, to schools, what this is for and why it is. In my number, there's 6 million numbers. My number is that I have on my arm is there too. I don't know if you, I know a lot of people came over to look at it. This is my number from Auschwitz, and that's the number that it was one of the numbers over here. I presume it was the first panel that was destroyed. But thank God, when we were building the memorial, like I think Barry mentioned to the mayor, that we were thinking of the future and what might happen. And so we saved some panels. They're in storage. So it'll be a little easier to rebuild this, to put the panel back in and put the numbers on. And as Barry said, we are Boston strong. The Jewish people are strong. The city of Boston is strong. We'll not let it get away. We'll be here. We'll work. We'll build. We will rebuild. And we'll be meeting again here every year to have our observance. In 1949, I came here, just a walking place down at Commonwealth Pier. I came to America from Germany over here with my wife and child, and we live in this great city with these great people. And it's an honor and it's a pleasure. And we did very well here, and we will be here. We'll be here for a long time. The only thing is that, with all due respect, that some of the speakers before me said it took 22 years and nothing happened. Whether we should be proud of that or not, I don't know. I was hoping it would take another 125 years before anything would have destroyed, any harm would have been done to it. But it happened. It will be destroyed. Be proud. Be strong. Good to see you here all. Good luck to you.
On behalf of the survivors in our community and the children and grandchildren of survivors, we are grateful that the City of Boston allocated this space for a Holocaust memorial. For people like my father, who came to this country having lost every single member of their family, every person they ever knew in their lives before the war, this truly is sacred ground. And to us, this represents the graves of all those people that perished during the war. May the 6 million rest in peace, knowing that we are here. Thank you.
We want to acknowledge, in addition to all the elected officials that were acknowledged before, and if we missed anybody, we apologize. This was done very short notice. But we've received many messages of support from the interfaith community, and joining us today are several members of the interfaith community. If I miss you, I apologize, but I want to thank Anthony Barsamian, who is the chair of the board of the Mass Council of Churches, and Reverend Nancy Taylor, a close partner of our community, for being here with us today. Our next speaker is Barbara Grossman, who was the co-chair both of the dedication and of the rededication 10 years later of this memorial site, and we're pleased to have her with us on behalf of those who've been such a part of building this space.
Thank you, Jeremy, and also Ayanna Presley is here, so thank you for being here. As Jeremy said, my husband Steve and I co-chaired the dedication of this beautiful memorial in 1995 and the rededication in 2005. Elie Wiesel spoke beautifully on both occasions. This memorial was built as a result of a community effort. Mayor Flynn the police department, the city council, the community members, survivors. People wanted it to happen because I think all too often people have focused on Boston and ugly incidents in the city's past rather than on the beautiful, wonderful, strong, solid, bonded community that we are now, with people who care, people who want to make a difference, people who want to make the legacy of justice and righteousness carry forward, and what it really means to be civically engaged. This monument, the rationale to the behind the memorial, in addition to what Izzy said so movingly about being a gathering place for people who lost everything, lost their family members. There are no graves for Holocaust survivors. There are pits, there are killing fields, there are piles of ashes and debris, but there are no graves. So for people to be able to gather here and pay tribute to all of their loved ones and all that was lost, but all that they've built here, is one compelling reason. But another compelling reason is this is adjacent to the Freedom Trail, and we all felt so profoundly that what better way to mark freedom and what it's meant in the lives of all of us as proud Bostonians and proud Americans to have something that signifies the total absence of freedom, the total absence of choice, the total absence of liberty. So I'm happy to see everybody here. As someone who's been involved in this, as a founding member, as a donor, as a member of the Design Management Committee in the mid-'80s that ran the competition that hired Stanley Sadowitz, the architect who envisioned this, I pledge that all of the members of this community, of which I'm privileged to be a part, will do everything we can to ensure that this memorial goes forward in strength, in peace, and in unity. Thank you so much.
Before I bring up our final two speakers, who will be Robert Treston, the Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League, who will then introduce the District Attorney. Let me also thank someone who's with us, Consul General of Israel to New England, Yehuda Yaakov, who is an incredible friend of Boston's Jewish community, and we appreciate the solidarity of our Israeli brothers and sisters on a day like today. With that, let me welcome up Robert Treston.
You know, when the glass had shattered space, when the glass in sacred space is shattered, it doesn't just shatter one particular community, it actually shatters the entire community. And in the early hours this morning, I and others received calls of support from Boston's civil rights community, from the interfaith community, from the Archdiocese. Cardinal O'Malley is in Rome, but actually asked me to express his solidarity with the survivor community, but also the greater Boston community, because this doesn't just impact one community. And one of the things that's remarkable about what happened last night, after this glass was shattered, was that citizens, people who were just in the area, exercised their civic responsibility. And they immediately called Boston police, who were on scene right away. And they helped describe what happened, they helped identify the person, and that's the reason why a few blocks from here, there's an arraignment happening simultaneously while this community is here. And we really need to acknowledge and be grateful that people are actually exercising their civic responsibility and they're making a statement that these acts will not be tolerated, and that if people act in this way, if people violate sacred space, if people commit criminal acts in Boston, we the people who live here, who value this community, are going to do something about it. And we're grateful for the leadership of Mayor Walsh, for Commissioner Evans, for Chief Gross, who's here, but also most especially for the police officers who at 2 in the morning worked this case. They followed the leads, they did the interviews, they did what they're trained to do. And so it's a reminder that in Boston we're lucky for the leadership that we have, because people know what to do, they know what to say, and they're also well trained. So we are grateful, and I just want to take a moment to thank all of them for their incredible leadership. It means a lot, and we are all grateful. So let me introduce District Attorney Dan Connolly, who is a close friend of the Anti-Defamation League. We had the pleasure of traveling to Israel together, and we'll allow you to say a few words about what's going to happen from here on.
Thank you, Robert.
I would like to actually bifurcate or separate my remarks because the defendant actually has not yet been arraigned, and I actually am under certain rules of court, so I can't talk about that until after that occurs. I'll make myself available to the press if you want. That should happen at any time, as Robert pointed out. But for my purpose here, I just want to say Robert mentioned that I had the great fortune last year of going to Israel with ADL, but I had been there once before. And on both trips, I had been to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial in Israel. I've been to the Holocaust Museum, it's museum and memorial in Israel, to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And for those of you who have not had an opportunity to be there, either place, as jarring as those experiences are, all of us should make that effort to immerse ourselves in one of those two places at some point in our lifetime to understand the magnitude of what Izzy and his family went through and the 6 million others, the horror, the horrific acts that occurred in the not too distant past, and commit ourselves to never ever letting something like that happen again. From my position as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer and Chief Prosecutor here in Suffolk County, I simply want to say that our office is deeply committed to zero tolerance of crimes of hate and violence against communities, whether they be Jewish, whether they be Muslim, whether they be any other discrete ethnic community. When the police bring us cases, we will evaluate that evidence and we will prosecute those cases vigorously. You can count on that. Tim McCarthy, who's city councilor and from Hyde Park, which incidentally I once was, Tom Menino once was, right? So it's a kind of a hot seat maybe, right? But Tim and I were having a conversation before this started, and you know, sometimes we have a tendency to say this reflects negatively on our city. And this shows that we are a city that has a lot of work to do. Maybe that, I don't know, maybe that's true in some circles, but I think it speaks volumes about what happens when these things happen, how we all come together. All this speaks negatively to is the individual who is alleged to have committed these acts. So we all come together in these horrible times to speak out against this sort of thing, and I am very proud to stand with Izzy. And I was here actually in 1995. You probably don't remember that. I was a member of the city council, but it's you and Steve Ross at this dedication, and I've been by here a million times in the car and several times walking through. I'm sure many of you have as well. It's like walking through a church. Doesn't matter what time or day or night. That speaks volumes about the Bostonians that I know when they walk through here and they contemplate what happened and they remember. So thank you very much.
Just thank you all for being here. Just a few details about the memorial to let you know. The 6 towers here represent the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust. They represent the 6 years from 1939 and 1945 during which the final solution took place, and the 6 main death camps where the majority of Europe's Jews, men, women, and children were murdered. On these towers there are 132 panes of glass, including the one that was shattered this morning. Each panel is etched with the thousands of numbers representing the infamous tattoos inflicted on the arms of many of the 6 million Jews who were murdered by the Nazis during the Holocaust. And I should add that this site is maintained by CJP in partnership with the Jewish Community Relations Council, and that we do have 24-hour a day video surveillance of the memorial, and the video from last night is being made available to Boston PD. I know that the district attorney, myself, and others are available if there are any questions from the media at this time, and we thank everybody for being here today.